Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kudash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Ezra, the 3rd chapter. And pretty much in the 2nd chapter, as we went through, it was fairly lengthy, but mainly going into the records of those that had returned upon Cyrus's decree to Jerusalem to begin the rebuilding of the temple. So as we go into Ezra, the 3rd chapter, this is sort of along those same lines where we start laying the foundation and going from there. So this is Ezra chapter 3, verse 1. Altar and sacrifices restored. And when the 7th month was come, and the children of Israel were in the cities, the people gathered themselves together as one man to Jerusalem. One man meaning unified. They then stood up Jeshua, the son of Jozadak, and his brethren the priests, and Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, and his brethren, and builded the altar of the God of Israel to offer burnt offerings thereon, as it is written in the law of Moses, the man of God. And so that's one of the first things that they built, right? The altar. That way they could make these offerings, to the Most High. Verse 3 says, and they set the altar upon his basis, for fear was upon them because of the people of those countries. And they offered burnt offerings thereon unto the Lord, even burnt offerings morning and evening. So having returned into the land, remember that you had, upon our being sent to as captives, you had like the Edomites, for example, that came in there, took some of our villages. You had even some of the Ammonites and the neighboring nations that now coming back could pose a threat, right? So in fear of this, they began to offer sacrifices and burnt offerings, and to basically get back in that cycle, because when you go into the law, it is commanded of us to have the morning oblation and the evening oblation, right, which is mentioned here, which are the continual sacrifices before the Lord. Verse 3, they kept also the Feast of Tabernacles, as it is written, and offered the daily burnt offerings by number, according to the custom, as the duty of every day required. Now, if we go into the book of Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, and I believe it should be right around the 34th verse or so. There we go. So this is Leviticus chapter 23, verse 34, and this goes into, it's about 2 or 3 verses, and this is the instructions for the Feast of Tabernacles. So Leviticus 23 and 34, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, the 15th day of this 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord. On the first day shall be an holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein. So treating it like a Sabbath. Right now, when you look up the word convocation, it says here, makorah, convocation, reading, a calling together, right? A sacred assembly to basically commence the feast, right? So it says here, on the first day shall be a holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein. 7 days ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai. On the 8th day shall be an holy convocation unto you, and ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. It is a solemn assembly, and ye shall do no servile work therein. So the point here is that for each day we actually had to offer an offering unto the Lord, which is what they did here in Ezra, the 3rd chapter and the 4th verse. As we read, remember that when we read up above in, in the 1st verse, it tells you what month this is, which is the 7th month. So it only makes sense, as it is referring to in the 4th verse, that we kept the Feast of Tabernacles. So Verse 4, they kept also the Feast of Tabernacles, as it is written, and offered the daily burnt offerings by number, according to the custom. So each day there was an offering that had to be made pertaining to the law, which we just read in Leviticus 23, as the duty of every day required. And afterward offered the continual burnt offering, both of the new moons and of all the set feasts of the Lord that were consecrated, and of every one that willingly offered a free will offering unto the Lord. So you had the continual burnt offerings, right? You had your morning oblation, your evening oblation. And interestingly enough, here they mention the new moons. Now, what's the significance of the offerings on the new moons? Because you have certain individuals that are basically teaching that the Sabbath, which in actuality is based upon the new moon, they're saying it's based on the full moon. So then in here, what's the significance of the new moon here? Right? Well, the significance is the new moon is what dictates the day, all right, or the Sabbath for that month until the next new moon comes in. And of all the set feasts of the Lord that were consecrated, and of every one that willingly offered a freewill offering unto the Lord. From the first day of the 7th month began they to offer burnt offerings unto the Lord. But the foundation of the temple of the Lord was not yet laid. So the main first initial focus that they had was the temple, or actually the altar, so they could perform sacrifices. They gave money also unto the masons, and to the carpenters, and meat and drink, and oil unto them of Zidon and them of Tyre, to bring cedar trees from Lebanon to the sea of Joppa, according to the grant that they had from Cyrus, king of Persia. Now, when you actually look this up, it mentions by sea, right? Because when you look at where Tyre and Zidon is, here you see Tyre, it would be a very difficult transport if they had to bring it by land all the way here to Joppa. So instead, it would be much faster and efficient to bring it by sea over here, and then Jerusalem is right here. So the transport would be much easier to get the materials there. Verse 8, temple restoration begun. Now in the 2nd year of their coming into the house, or onto the house of God at Jerusalem, in the 2nd month began Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel, and Jeshua the son of Jozadak, and the remnant of their brethren the priests, and the Levites, and all they that were come out of the captivity unto Jerusalem, and appointed the Levites from 20 years old and upward to set forward the work of the house of the Lord. So now they began to, appointing people to take care of this task. Verse 9, then stood Jeshua with his sons and his brethren, Kadmiel and his sons, the sons of Judah, together to set forth the workmen of the house of God, the sons of Henadad with their sons, and their brethren, the Levites. And when the builders laid the foundation of the temple of the Lord, they set the priests in their apparel with trumpets, and the Levites, the sons of Asaph, with cymbals, to praise the Lord Yahweh, after the ordinance of David, king of Israel. And they sang together by course, by praising and giving thanks unto the Lord, because he is good, for his mercy endureth forever toward Israel. And all the people shouted with a great shout. And when they praised the Lord, because the foundation of the house of the Lord was laid. So it was a very exciting time, right? The temple that we love so much was destroyed, and now we had the opportunity to go back and rebuild it. And it was a very beautiful thing, showing a great deal of mercy that Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai has, or at least had in that time, for us, to allow us to go back and bless us with all the resources to be able to start building this temple back up again. Verse 12, but many of the priests and the Levites, the chief of the fathers, who were ancient men, that had seen the first house, so the first temple, when the foundation of this house was laid before their eyes, wept with a loud voice, and many shouted aloud for joy, because they had witnessed what it was like before. And being that they came as captives from Babylon as well, they had seen how it was destroyed, and it was burnt down and all of that. So seeing the rebuilding of that temple again, as you can see, you had mixed feelings, right? You had tears of joy and all of that. Verse 13, so that the people could not discern the noise of the shout of joy from the noise of the weeping of the people. For the people shouted with a loud shout, and the noise was heard afar off. And that brings us to the end of Ezra, the 3rd chapter. And mainly, as we went into the beginning of the restoration, right? Starting with the altar and the foundation being laid. So with that, Lord willing, this was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rekha Kodesh. And until next time, Shalom.